Dee and Daniel here, your lovable podcast mascot and friend. This podcast is brought to you by our listeners on Patreon, especially Carlo and Hedwig. Thank you all.
Hello and welcome to the Probably Bad Podcast, a podcast which is definitely bad. I'm Pencil.
I'm Paper. Today's Probably Bad RPG idea is... the PCs are the proud owners of Ravenloft's first ever Chuck E. Cheese. I mean, this is an objectively bad idea because 4 out of 5 restaurants fail in the first year, so it's just not going to go well.
Yeah, you think it's going to be some kind of animatronic-themed horror, but it is just the fear of, setting up your first business.
Roll a d20. If you get a 16 or above, your business lasts out the year.
Yeah, because especially in Ravenloft, where you've also got to account for, vampires who only drink blood in your restaurant, and werewolves who only eat people, and so forth and so forth. So, I think part of the issue here is that both of us are British, and I've never been to a Chuck E. Cheese.
I'm mostly aware of it through parody, but I'm going to do my best.
Yeah, here's things I know about Chuck E. Cheese. Alright, I think it's a children's restaurant, and it has a giant fucking rat. And the giant rat just wanders around the Chuck E. Cheese.
No, I think it's animatronic and it sings songs.
I thought it was a mascot thing. We're already falling into infighting already.
There is a mascot as well, I think. I'm positive that there's some sort of animatronic element.
Yeah,
and
that
there's
does sound
arcade
familiar.
games and pizza.
If any of you know about Chuck E. Cheese and would like to tell us the various contradictions of Chuck E. Cheese lore we just made, feel free to email us, I suppose.
I know that the E stands for entertainment.
Yeah, because it's Charles E. Cheese.
Charles Entertainment Cheese.
Right, so, Ravenloft. The question is...
We know more about Ravenloft.
We do.
It's spooky.
Has Charles Entertainment Cheese been condemned to a dark domain for his sin?
I think he's just trying to bring a little joy to the people of Ravenloft. Because, it's got to be a hard place to grow up. At the very least, there should be a place where you can get pizza from a giant rat.
Yeah, that's just a bare minimum for a good childhood. And you've got to stop all of the vampires and what have you from breaking in and ruining it. My knowledge of Ravenloft is there's just packs of vampires wandering the streets mugging fast food mascots.
I mean, it's basically the village from every gothic horror, right?
Yeah, basically, for those who don't know, Ravenloft is the D&D horror setting, and it's a spooky alternate dimension full of gothic horror monsters into which people are dragged every so often from around the multiverse.
I think my biggest concern is people assuming that Mr. Cheese, although the dash is in the name, I don't know if it's a mononym, if Charles Entertainment Cheese is just his name. But I'm going to call him Mr. Cheese because it feels more polite. My biggest concern is whether Mr. Cheese will be interpreted as some sort of horrific monster, what with being a giant, possibly animatronic, possibly not rat, that goes around offering children delicious things in exchange for money.
It is a setting with a weirrat. So I assume most people will imagine he's a weirrat. And that's probably going to be a problem.
Yeah. But also just generally, I feel like in a gothic horror setting, you don't want your children making deals with any kind of stranger, but especially not a giant sentient rat.
To be fair, so if you picture, your gothic horror town, and there's mist, and there's a small town full of isolated and unfriendly villagers, and there's a castle or mansion or something on a mountain. Like a vampire walks in, or a werewolf walks in, or a ghost walks in. It's like, okay, that makes sense. And like singing, dancing, animatronic rap band with a guitar throwing pizzas at people. It might just throw everyone enough that they're like, that doesn't seem like a monster, because all of the monsters are tragic and ethereal and sinister, and that things won't stop singing shitty kids songs.
If anything, maybe we need to give Mr. Cheese a backstory to make him, to make people more comfortable with him. He needs a tragic backstory.
Yeah. Like, I was assuming horrible scientific experiment gone wrong. Like, Charles Entertainment Cheese was a young man who wanted to go into the restaurant business. But as you mentioned, most restaurants fail in their first year, so they couldn't quite pull it off. So he turned to like a sinister government conspiracy to help him. And they funded him, but in exchange, they injected him with mutagenic chemicals. And that's how he became Chuck E. Cheese. And then he was dragged into Ravenloft in unrelated circumstances.
I have learned that Chuck E. Cheese has a backstory.
Oh, was I close?
I'm just going to tell you it, and we'll see what you think. So he grew up in Saint Marinara's orphanage.
Imagining Chuck E. Cheese's parents dying.
Yeah, just sit in that for a moment.
Yeah.
And he loves the song "Happy Birthday," and he loves singing and playing music. But because he was an orphan, he didn't know what his birthday was. We're ignoring the part where the other orphans knew what their birthdays were. But Chuck never knew his birthday and just wanted to sing happy birthday all the time, and that's why he opened a children's restaurant that does birthday parties.
Hey,
What?
That is surprisingly tragic. So, important question.
So he'll fit in fine.
Yeah, important question. In this first ever Chuck E. Cheese, it's a gothic horror setting. Is it haunted by the ghosts of Mr. Cheese's dead pet?
Presumably. That must be why he's known as Chuck Cheese.
Yeah.
His parents are Mr. and Mrs. Cheese. He's just Chuck.
Like, are they haunting it in a sinister way, or are they just like working?
I don't know. I'm just trying to work out if their deaths were any sort of comeuppance for naming their child Charles Entertainment.
His first action out of the room was to stab them upon hearing his name. And that's the dark sin because like in Ravenloft, each sort of area is based around a person who has committed some horrific act of evil, and it's all very poetic after their things. And that's his one. He went here to atone for killing his parents over calling him Charles Entertainment.
I also need you to know that the way that he got money to go to the big city to open his restaurant was he won a Pong tournament.
So I think the most important question
It doesn't add to the tragedy, but it raises a lot of questions.
I think the most important question, if we're doing this as an RPG, how do you determine who gets to play Charles Entertainment Cheese?
See, I was seeing him as more like a quest giver NPC.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Everyone is doing various jobs. Someone makes the pizza, someone, I don't know, services the video games. And Charles is just there in the back rooms, shedding a single tear every time he hears the song Happy Birthday.
Yeah. Like, so what it is you work at the Chuck E. Cheese. And yeah, the rap man is there crying over his birthday. And you have to figure out his tragic backstory in order to lay the ghosts of his parents to rest, while also, serving pizza and managing the video games and making sure everyone's having a good time.
Oh, I like it. It's like a murder mystery.
Yeah.
Set in a children's restaurant.
Like, yeah, a children's and because every so often you get a customer who is a werewolf or like a goblin or something, and you have to like serve them too. So those are like Okay, so each session is okay. Count Strahd has come in and is demanding that his vampire children be given pizza, and you need to sort that out. But the overarching plot is figuring out who killed the parents of Charles Entertainment Cheese.
We have once again reached the point where I have to say I would play this.
Yeah, tell us how it goes. Because Ravenloft is like medieval technology, because it's a D&D set. Mostly medieval technology. Is it downgraded to fit in with that aesthetic, or is it does it have arcade machines and everything?
Well, I feel like the animatronics would at least be fairly straightforward because you could have a clockwork thing. I'm less sure about the arcade machines. I feel like having them be magic in some way would maybe be kind of a cop-out. But maybe you just have, good, wholesome medieval family fun, like bear baiting.
So firstly, I do love the idea of there's just a fucking bear in your Chuck E. Cheese.
Okay, yeah, that might be excessive. Badger baiting.
No, bear baiting. Your kids, you go in, it's like, hey, my kid's birthday, and Charles and she's like, yay, here's a fucking bear, fight it to live.
I think I'm misunderstanding what bear baiting is, but your version is more entertaining.
Here's your official Chuck E. Cheese bear spears. But yeah, I
prefer this version.
Yeah, I'm vaguely aware of what bear baiting is, and I'm pretty certain it's not you have to fight the bear with a spear, but also.
I mean, if you're gonna do the whole fighting a bear thing, you should have the decency to do it yourself.
Yeah. It's because Charles Entertainment Cheese is a giant sentient animal, he empathizes more with bears. So he doesn't do the whole let's all sit around and jab it while it can't fight back. He does okay, if you want to do bear baiting, you're gonna have to fight the fucking bear.
He doesn't empathize with the bears enough to not do bear baiting, but he does replace the dogs with small children, and that's better.
He's a rat, he's not a bear, he's not fully empathizing with them, but he's closer than human. This is my knowledge of how evolution works. There are rats and bears who are related, and then there's humans who are a different thing. And that is how that works. I do also like the idea of just a fully functional 70s disco themed arcade just appearing in a gothic medieval town.
I mean, maybe that's the plot. It's like the second arc. The first arc is solving the murder of Mr. and Mrs. Cheese. The second arc is, okay, we've dealt with that. Now, where did this arcade come from?
The second arc is literally just you describe an arcade machine, but as if the person has no context for what an arcade machine is, and see how long it takes your players to figure out what it is.
I mean, that is always fun. I've definitely done that with things like vacuum cleaners.
Yeah.
In fact, in the Probably Bad game, I did it with a Roomba. We called it the disc of cleaning.
I think we've come up with a pretty solid campaign idea here. I feel there should be at least once an angry mob who are going to kill Charles Entertainment.
Well, that's more just the background threat of the campaign, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, the background threat is you need to stop the angry mob rising. You need to figure out who killed Mr. Cheese's parents. And you also need to intermittently deal with a wrathful banshee that wants pizza. I think the problem is going to be contriving why all these supernatural creatures.
Does the banshee have a Karen haircut?
Yeah, the banshee is the ghost of a Karen who cannot rest until she has seen the manager.
But the manager is too busy being sad about his dead parents.
Yeah.
So you have to lay the ghosts to rest that you can then arrange a meeting between the banshee and Mr. Cheese.
I was thinking
it now feels weird not to call him Mr. Cheese. Calling him Chuck seems too familiar.
Yeah, he's not your friend, he's your boss, so he's Mr. Cheese.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think I think we've got a good campaign here, which isn't what we were meant to do at all. I apologise
if anything,
sincerely
that's
to
a
all
larger
listeners.
achievement than describing an arcade machine in medieval terms.
Hmm.
So,
So, questions, I believe.
mm,
Our first question comes from Blatella.
read the whole name.
Oh yeah, fuck. From Blatella, Envoy of the Swarm. My apologies. What is the funniest permutation of one class acting like another? I would say Rogue Paladin either side. So either have a rogue who's wearing shiny armor and goes, "Yes, I will save you, for it is my oath as a paladin," and then they go up to you and just mug you, or a paladin who just sneaks into your house while you sleep and like takes care of everyday problems for you.
I mean, I think that second one you're describing a large number of household spirits.
Yeah, which is what I aim for when I make a paladin.
I think I would quite like a warlock that acts like a cleric, like sets up a little shrine to their patron and prays to them every day, which I feel would be especially good if it was like the demon warlock.
Yeah.
The demon is just really uncomfortable with this whole thing.
Hmm.
It's like, dude, if you don't stop praying to me, I'm gonna take away your Eldritch Blast. Oh, mighty patron, please do not punish me so.
I feel like Warlock who acts like wizard, but in the sense of they're very adamant that yes, they learnt these magic powers and they definitely didn't get them by calling up the Fey realms and crying down the phone until they agreed to give them magic. Like, yep, I definitely am a wizard and can definitely cast spells.
I was gonna say warlock that acts like a bard, but I literally have a character in my current campaign who is a warlock trying to get powerful enough to be worthy of fucking their patron. So I think we've got that covered.
Yeah, I am not in the current campaign, but I occasionally hear about it, and I hope that they're doing well. Like, I hope that they're getting close to fucking their patron.
Well, they reached level 2.
Okay, so this is a start. Fighter who acts like a wizard. Hear me out. They like walk up to you. They take out like they're dressed in like robes and covered in symbols. They take out this huge like leather-bound tome that's just got an image of like a demon or something on the front. And they open it up and they start intoning dramatically, and then they just pick up the book and throw it at you.
I mean, there are definitely some wizards who would just do that anyway. You push
Or
them.
Fighter acts like a wizard in that they describe in great detail the science behind them hitting you with a sword every time they hit you with a sword.
Barbarian that acts like a cleric chops you to pieces, but says a prayer over the pieces afterwards so you can get into a good afterlife. Although I think that is just a paladin.
Yeah. I think we seem to be coming up with like just a lot of characters who actually exist, which is the problem because everyone plays bullshit characters. I am still a fan of Rogue who acts like a barbarian. You can't be seen if there's no witnesses alive afterwards.
The classic "you're invisible if no one's looking" thing.
Yeah, you're invisible if no one is alive to see you.
I think that's how a lot of people play Metal Gear, I'll be honest.
I have never played Metal Gear, so I will take your word for it.
No witnesses if you kill all the witnesses.
Yeah. I want an entire party who acts like barbarian. Like, you have the standard rogue, fighter, cleric, wizard, but all of them go into furious rages every time they see an enemy and just beat them up.
I mean, again, there is a certain type of player who already does this.
Yeah. Well, the point is, I don't know what the point is. It's 2021. Every word I say fades into the ether as soon as I stop thinking it. There is no words, only sadness. But next question.
My next 5e character is a medium humanoid, lawful neutral, / small swarm of tiny aberrations, chaotic evil. Thoughts? That's from Badgerpunk. But this is like the opposite of the thing about how, people are individually good, but a mob is awful. Because you've just got aberrations who are individually awful, but collectively okay. And I'm just really enjoying that.
Yeah. Like, the question is, how many aberrations do you need to take out of the swarm before they become an asshole? Because I like the idea of...
The question is, how many constitutes a swarm?
Yeah. Because I like the idea of the more you damage them, the more of a jerk they become.
Just one of those people that really snaps if you do anything wrong.
Yeah. So yeah, I think... What do I think? Like, so do they just do a vote on whether or not they're going to be a jerk? And it's like a kind of... Maybe it's a kind of like, okay, so they all want to do evil. But they feel nervous because there's so many people around them and they don't know if they want to do evil things. So they dial it down a bit.
They're kind of forced to behave by social anxiety.
Yeah, like, each of them is chaotic evil, but each of them thinks that all of the other ones are lawful good. And they don't want to be good because they're evil, but they're not willing to do evil because they think that everyone around them will judge them for it.
To quote a classic movie of our times, just because you're a bad guy doesn't mean that you're a bad guy.
Podcast has reached Wreck-It Ralph level. It's over. We have accomplished what we set out to do.
Is that better or worse than Speed is the important question.
I mean, I've actually never seen either, so I wouldn't know.
I mean, we're watching Speed tonight, so that'll fix one of those.
Yeah. For those at home, I don't consume media. I spend all of my evenings sat alone in my room, sobbing while force feeding myself a D&D Player's Handbook. So I like this little democratic school who has been forced to be a good person, or at least decent person, by social anxiety. Like, you cast Detect Evil.
I'm just wondering though, if they switched to private ballot, to like a secret ballot, would that balance out the social anxiety and they'd vote the way that they really want to?
Yeah.
And then your character would presumably just end up acting like some sort of Brexit Trump hybrid.
Yeah, so what you need to do, the other player has the arc of trying to make sure that this swarm of tiny aberrations don't implement democratic reform. You send in little instigator aberrations into the map.
Teeny tiny Pinkertons.
Teeny tiny Pinkertons is my new character. Is my new D&D species.
I like it.
Yeah. What was the other thing I was going to say? It's like, yeah, if you cast Detect Evil on them, it kills them because every aberration is like, oh fuck, now they'll know I'm the evil one, and jumps off to run away.
So Detect Evil basically has the same effect as Disintegrate on this character, because they all just run away in different directions.
Yeah. I don't know what information it gives you if you cast Detect Evil on someone and they just fucking vaporize. But I imagine it probably doesn't, reflect well on them.
Yeah, I think at the very least I'd assume they weren't great.
At least, I can't remember if it's the case in 5th edition, at least in 3rd edition, if you cast Detect Evil on something evil enough, it stunned you because they were so evil. And I guess it's like the inverse of that, so maybe it's like, oh no, I cast Detect Evil on them, and they were so good that the Detect Evil just vaporized them through sheer indignance at the assumption they might not be good.
Well, I believe that in 5e Detect Good and Evil tells you about the presence of certain kinds of creature. I mean, one of them is aberration, so it would still work. But it would more just tell you this person is made of aberrations. Which, I mean, would certainly be a thing to learn about your party member. Like, hey, this is my mate Clive. No, he's made of tiny evil creatures, but don't hold that against him.
Like, would it? Okay, so would it say this person is made of aberrations, or would it say there's an aberration inside this person?
That's a very good question.
So that might give you some very different opinions as to what's going on.
Because it,
Like,
just
I guess
says, it just says you know where the creature is located. So
yeah,
I
no.
guess you would know that he contained many aberrations.
Yeah, you know there are many aberrations where he was.
So I guess if they all then ran away, you'd just be like, oh no, they killed Clive.
Clive hatched into a swarm of abominations.
We must kill them all to avenge him.
And this is the tragic backstory that leads to you getting sucked into Ravenloft and having to work at Mr. Cheese's haunted Chuck E. Cheese. It's all gone full circle.
Yes, his name was Clive Cheese, the father of Charles Entertainment.
It turns out that you were the one who killed Charles Entertainment Cheese's parents.
Now you have to make the ultimate choice as to whether or not you tell him. If only you were made of many tiny creatures which could somehow vote on whether you should tell him.
Again, I would play this. One of the other characters is the surviving aberrations who have reformed into a child, because there's less of them, so it's smaller, who is in the Chuck E. Cheese, and they're just the background characters playing on like arcade machines and stuff. But the twist is, they're the aberrations here to get revenge. It turns out that Charles Entertainment Cheese has been playing Happy Birthday to his father, who, unbeknownst to him, has come back as a child who is at his Chuck E. Cheese. And then at the end, it's revealed, and they have a heartwarming reunion. And then the child fucking eats him because he's a swarm of abominations. You all get enough XP to level up. Campaign continues. This time at a McDonald's haunted by a clown.
And on that note, we have a Patreon. It's Probably Bad RPG Ideas, where you can get access to homebrew where we do nonsense like this, but for you, and bonus episodes where we also do nonsense because this is a nonsense podcast, as well as a Discord server.
You know, I was very emotionally invested in the story of Charles Entertainment Cheese.
This is the most I've ever cared about a fictional mouse.
Yeah, you, Mickey.
If you have a question, you can email probablybadpodcast@gmail.com or message the Probably Bad RPG Ideas Tumblr. And remember to have a probably bad day.